Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is episode 16 of the Sigma Show. It is your host, Sigma. Before I let you know who is joining me today, real quick, we're just going to go over what our topics for this week are going to be. First up, let me pull this, run a show up, because that would probably be a smart idea. Nintendo apparently canceled a Legend of Zelda Netflix show after it was leaked. And we were just talking about it actually, but we're going to try to figure out maybe why that was a thing. We also got news that a Black Panther spin-off show called Kingdom of Wakanda is going to be coming to Disney Plus. Very excited about that. The Embracer Group, I don't know if that's what their name is, but Embracer, a publisher, has acquired Gearbox, the Borderlands studio, for an estimated $1.3 billion deal. We'll talk about that a little bit. And EA College Sports, formerly NCAA football, is going to be coming back. We'll talk about what that means, because there was a reason why that went away in the first place. And our final topic is going to be Google Stadia's basically shut down of all of their internal studios, all two of them. So they weren't, they didn't have anything that we knew was coming, but they basically threw in the towel and got rid of the studios altogether, all the same. And to talk with me about these topics today, I'm joined by Superman Jeff.
What's going on, everybody? Glad to be back.
Rexicon Jesse,
Howdy.
as well as Ash Redux.
What's up, everybody?
Everybody's just finishing their morning coffee and
Listen,
breakfast.
I'm almost done. I'm sorry. I'm hurrying up.
But with that being said, let's jump right into things. We have a bunch of topics today, so we'll try to speed through what we can to keep the show within its regular time period. But first off, this Nintendo story. A couple years back, we had got information that Nintendo was making a Legend of Zelda Netflix series. I think it was supposed to be animated or was supposed to be live action. I don't actually remember. Was it a live action one?
It didn't say. It just said in the vein of like a family-friendly Game of Thrones.
Okay. Well, either way, we heard it was coming. People were skeptical. Some people were excited, but we heard it was coming. Recently, we just heard from comedian Adam Conover. I'm actually a big fan of that guy. He does the Adam Ruins Everything TV show, whatnot. He leaked in a podcast interview, or was it a magazine interview? Either way, he leaked that his former employer, help me out here, Funny or Die? Oh, College Humor, right.
Yeah,
College Humor were involved in making a claymation Star Fox show for Nintendo. And that once their project got pulled, apparently, because someone at Netflix let loose that they were making a Legend of Zelda show. So it was like a domino effect of Nintendo panicking after the leak of the Zelda thing and just pulling the Star Fox project as well. So it's kind of a crazy reaction. Like, what do you guys think Nintendo could be thinking and just hitting the nuclear option after this very tiny leak, just the leak that the thing existed, came out? Any thoughts? Tupana Nader Confiar is telling us Hola, Arriba Espana. I don't speak Spanish. So, I know Hola means hi. So, welcome to the show. But yeah, everything after that, I'm sorry. But about this, Zelda show, like, what do you guys think Nintendo was thinking?
For me, I'm thinking they're going with. We've seen this in the past when Nintendo kind of does whatever they want, regardless of anybody else or even the fans to a certain extent. I feel like they're still stuck in the past. A lot of their business models, if you've seen over the years, how long they were holding on to the whole let's still use cartridges. You know what I'm saying? And even when they got away from cartridges, they went to the mini disc. And then now we're back to cartridges. So like they are very, very stuck in their ways. I'm thinking they're still experiencing post-traumatic stress from
I think about that.
That use that they gave to, was it Panasonic, to use for Mario and Zelda for those games. And I can't see how just the mention of it. It's like you talk about Fight Club, and now we got to cancel Fight Club. Like, it can't happen anymore. You violated the first rule. Nobody was supposed to talk about it.
Yeah,
People know about it now.
It strikes me as like an honor thing. Like, they hold their franchises super close to home, and Zelda is like one of two of like their most precious of all, right? They give it to this company, say, hey, we want you to adapt this thing for us, keep it a secret. Somebody doesn't. It's like, all right, if we can't trust you to do this, then we can't trust you to do anything that we want to happen. So let's get rid of it. And also, Star Fox was over in this corner with these guys. F that too.
Shut it all down.
But everything gets leaked in this day and age. It's almost impossible to keep something a secret. It's so to the extreme that I was watching something for The Mandalorian. They were talking about, oh, we know this person is going to show up because we've seen their character take a flight from here to there where the filming's taking place and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you can't even fly to the same city that something's being featured if you're a star or whatever. That people are going to figure this out. Like, in this day and age, there are no secrets.
Like with Game of Thrones when spoilers for Game of Thrones. But when Jon Snow supposedly died that one season, and people were like, "Oh, Kit Harington hasn't cut his hair yet," so they were saying he must still be on the show, and they were right. They were actually right. But I mean, I get what you're saying. It's like, even though in today's age it's something to be expected that a big project could leak, Nintendo doesn't care about that. They're like, if you break your word, then we're gonna pull out, because that's basically you betraying our trust. And Blue, we see you in the chat. What's up?
Blue Bone.
Yeah, I feel like they're one of the rare companies that like has the social and financial clout that they can pull a move like that and they'll be fine. Those Switch sales aren't stopping just because they pulled Legend of Zelda. If someone can't play by their rules, they can be fine with that and just up and leave.
Yeah, they are the big dog and it's like just in media in general. Like if Nintendo walks in a room, doesn't matter where they are, I feel like those other people are gonna show them respect. Like if it's movies, TV, doesn't matter that Nintendo is a video game company. Like their properties are gold. So like people are gonna show them the respect that they deserve. And if this was a slight in Nintendo's eyes, like this was disrespect, that you guys would freaking leak this information, like I can see it as a petty move of just being like, well, F all this then. Forget you TV guys. You almost had it, and you effed it up, so we're leaving.
I can't say I'm mad about the Star Fox Claymation thing.
Really? I want to see more Star Fox stuff in general. Like I thought.
I don't really care for Claymation in general. I think it's a dated way to tell a story.
Yeah, it's still theater, but it's
like what was those old puppet shows that used to be in like Claymation? What was it, like Mr. Bonkers or something? Like, what was that guy's name? I forgot.
I know what you're talking about. Are you thinking Wallace and Gromit?
Yes. And then you had
what was it,
Celebrity Deathmatch. That was cool because it was what it was. It was like a little 20-minute excerpt of these celebrities going at it, and they gave them the license to kind of do whatever they want. But in this day and age, if you're going to use Star Fox, I want to see it. I would like to see an anime if that was the case. You know, I know we're getting off subject, but
no,
I'm not. I'm just saying I'm not mad about the whole Claymation thing just being killed.
I would have wanted to see what that was. Like to be honest, Claymation probably wouldn't have been my first choice either. But just the fact that Nintendo was saying, "Hey, let's do something with Star Fox," is enough. Like, cause they haven't even made a Star Fox game in like who knows how long. Like ever since Star Fox Zero on like the 3DS or something. Like they've been ignoring it entirely.
But like, I feel like Claymation is perfect. I mean, one, I just like Claymation. I think yes, if you are using it as a special effect, it is dated. If you are using it as a form of storytelling, then no, it's still valid. Like you were saying, I think it's Armin who does Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, Pirate.
Chicken Run.
Yeah. Like
I remember
they do a bunch of wonderful stuff. But like the artistry of it and how it is, I think could be cool. Second, I think it's perfect because have you seen those old commercials, like the original Star Fox commercials?
Yeah.
I don't remember what words I'm allowed to say in here, but those are creepy AF. And Claymation can do uncanny creep like that very well. And like a whole thing set in that horrific style sounds amazing.
See, when I think of
Horrific.
claymation, I always go back to the Nightmare Before Christmas too, with like the whole stop and go animation,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
where how long it took to do different shots. Like you do a shot, you'd move them an inch, you take another shot, you move them a half an inch, and then and it just seemed like it. Nowadays, they're able to get that same effect with the technology we have without all the time. I mean, it looked great, obviously, but um, like you're saying, Jesse, if it's telling a story using that, but if that's just the whole gimmick behind it, then to me it just doesn't work.
I don't know. It is disappointing that Nintendo would pull the plug. But I mean, remember the last time they gave their properties to like movie studios and stuff. Like we got the Super Mario Brothers movie, which is notoriously bad. Like it's so bad at this point that people love it now. Like it's kind of like, yeah, I kind of don't hate that movie personally. Like I liked what happens in that movie. It has nothing to do with the Mario games.
You have to go in and not think about Mario. Just see the colors, see red, see green, hear the names. Everything else, just
Okay.
let it do what it do.
Yeah, but I'm sure Nintendo wanted no parts of that.
But here's the thing, though. Like, I'm sure Nintendo would have had to view this before it was released. Like, there wasn't just, oh, you guys can make a movie, we'll watch it when it's out. No, they would have had to do a screening for Nintendo. Nintendo would have had to give the green light, like, okay, okay, we'll accept this. I mean, all movies nowadays, like Elf, when they made Elf, they had to do a playing for the executives, and then the executives like, oh, we want you to change the ending. So then they had to change the ending. Stuff like that, or they didn't change the ending. But I'm sure Nintendo saw this before it was before it was released to everybody else, and was like, they gave the thumbs up and was like, yeah, we're okay with this.
I wish I was in the room during the screening, just looking at like Miyamoto, and it's just like, this is it. This is what we're doing.
It could be the case where like they signed paperwork with the studios and whatnot. They gave them rights, permission, whatever, and then it's like a train that you can't necessarily stop at the end of it. So like I don't know those details. Like. And maybe it was a different group of people. Like maybe those execs at Nintendo who were like, yeah, whatever, you movie guys do it. That's fine. You know what you're doing. Maybe there's new people there who are like, I never would okay this.
You know what? Real quick, I know this is still off topic from our main topic, but what if that was back when they let Nintendo of America make more decisions, and that's why Nintendo of America can't do anything else anymore? What if Nintendo of America was like, yeah, movie, make money.
That's
we
actually
got this, guys.
That's a very strong argument for why Nintendo of America is constantly being disrespected and disregarded.
Nintendo of America's like, hey guys, we think if we did this, the consumers might know. They're like, okay, all right,
you
you're
still
right.
haven't lived down Super Mario. But anything else on this story before we move on to our next?
Absolutely. Here I go. Okay, I'm gonna try to. You said that we were going to keep it with the time restrictions, so I'll make this as brief as I can. Going back to last week, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on between Nintendo and Platinum Games. This will tie in later. I'll tell you why. So, the Nintendo Platinum Games, there was a time where Wonderful 101 like removed, I think, Nintendo off of like in the copyright and stuff. So like now Wonderful 101 is technically fully owned by Platinum Games and doesn't have anything other than being on Nintendo Switch console. The reason why I bring this up is because like last week, no one can say anything. I think it's because the legalities are still going through, so that's why both sides didn't say anything. But the copyright for Platinum Games was taken off of the game Astral Chain, so it almost seems like Nintendo's trying to get full rights to that IP. And I'm like, I couldn't think of any reason why they want to do that. Like even if it was just to make another game, they could still just let Platinum keep the IP, develop the game, and just do the same thing again. They do it with Bayonetta. They do it with other Nintendo and Platinum Games has a really good relationship at this point. So I'm like, why would they do that? So I'm wondering if they wanted to start doing like something with merch, and Astral Chain would easily fit into like an anime type thing if they wanted to make an anime for it. And the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because Pokemon is the highest grossing media franchise, period. It beats Mickey Mouse, it beats Winnie the Pooh, Star Wars, Hello Kitty, MCU, all of it. It beats all of it.
I legit didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Pokemon is there. If it wasn't for the fact that Disney owns so much things, Nintendo would probably be making more money off of Pokemon than Disney does all the stuff that they own. But Disney owns freaking everything at this point, so that's why they're winning.
Wow.
But so it's the highest grossing out of all of that. It's like I think it's like 100 billion plus is how much it is, and that was 1996. Mickey Mouse is 1928, so just slapping the mess out of Mickey Mouse. Sorry, Disney. But it's not the video games, it's not the movies. out of that 100 billion, almost like 75% of that just comes from merch. Some of it comes from movies. I think it goes merch, video games, and then movies and stuff in the anime or whatever. So I thought when we first heard about the Legend of Zelda thing, I'm like, it's about time. Why are we not capitalizing on the fact that you guys can make something sell? Mario, obviously, we had the issue with the movie, and the old animated cartoon wasn't that good from what I heard. I never watched it.
Well,
so
it didn't age well. I think it was. Well. Yeah, I think it was fine for the time.
It aged like fine wine. That show is hilarious.
I never watched it, so
I think is it still on Netflix? Because my son was actually watching it on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
I think it is still.
I have something to do.
Yeah,
but I was just thinking, like, this is the time. Like, their big three, in my opinion, is Zelda, Mario, and Pokemon. That's Nintendo's like big three out of everything. Like, no offense to the Metroid fans, Metroid, I just don't feel like
Metroid is nowhere near as big as. Like, just be honest.
But so I'm like, I felt like all this time they should have been doing stuff with those three to make more money with the merch. Like the fact that Mario still makes more money with their video games than their merch surprises me, because Pokemon is out here. They got the trading cards, they got all the plushies, all the dolls that you could possibly want.
Remember, Pokemon isn't solely controlled by Nintendo. The Pokemon Company,
that's true,
is kind of a partnered entity, but they don't have to do what Nintendo wants them to do. They're just buddy. So I think that could be part of their
stuff on it. So there's like, but why doesn't Nintendo do this with their own like fully owned IPs is what surprised me. So when I first heard about the Zelda thing, I'm like, okay, I can believe that. It wasn't confirmed, but I could believe it, right? I was like, they're just trying to do the same thing that Pokemon Company did with Pokemon and bring that all in-house, don't have to share with anybody else, Nintendo money with Zelda. Makes sense to me. So when they said it was canceled, I'm almost like, I don't know if I trust it. Nintendo also they have a history of just, not going with the mold of what people want, but they also have a history of lying to our face. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a legitimate, like, hey, so there's a rumor about this. No, that doesn't exist. Literally within a month later, we're announcing this. And that they've done that for.
Yo, you're right. They could absolutely be lying about.
They could absolutely, and I'm just like, if they're lying, I'm also not upset because I really wanted to see this, especially if it was animated. I'm not saying they couldn't do a live action. The Witcher live action TV show was great, and I loved it. And from what I heard, it followed more of the books than the video games too, which was fine with me. I was like, cool. Now I don't have to read the books. Works for me. Do it. I didn't feel like reading the books. I'm sorry. So
I mean, that's a good
know.
point. Yeah. My only thing is that it's not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Since it was never confirmed in the first place, I'm not getting my hopes up regardless, because it could have just been a rumor. But like you said, Adam, I have no reason to believe that he's just out here like making stuff up about it.
It's like secondhand knowledge to begin with, right?
So that's why I'm like, maybe it's secondhand knowledge that they put there to say the show was canceled and because it got leaked. Because at this point, all the Nintendo Switch games are online before the games come out. Like they've been coming out online, leaked. You can play the full Nintendo Switch game. Don't do this, people. It's illegal. But you can play the full games before they come out. Literally, like, I forget, something just got leaked either last week, this week. I don't remember. I just read about it before it's coming out. Whatever Switch game is coming out in the next month or so has already been leaked. I don't know what it is. But it's like, at this point, they shouldn't fight leaks anymore. So I know this was 2015 when it would have been canceled out. I'm just, at this point, I don't believe anybody. And I'm just going to assume that I'm indifferent to the fact of a Zelda Netflix show, no matter how much I want it, because I don't believe anybody for what they've said, if it's real or not. That's where I'm at.
All right, so you're going to hold out hope.
Yeah, I'm going to hold out hope by believing it doesn't exist in the first place.
And that was one of the things, is the fact that it was never confirmed. They could have just kept going as if it was just a rumor. Or it was just an old wives' tale, like that we tell our children that, hey, this is coming out. They could have left it at that, and then basically by saying it was canceled, they pretty much confirmed that it was confirmed.
Yeah, that was right.
Yeah. So it just.
All right. Well, Nintendo's gonna Nintendo. There's not much we could really do about that.
Facts.
We'll try to go over the next topic fairly quickly. I mean, we don't have too much information anyhow, but we do know a Black Panther spin-off show called Kingdom of Wakanda is coming to Disney Plus in the future. We got a ton of announcements of Disney Plus shows that are going to be coming, right? But this is a new one. Well, what are you guys' reaction to a side story involving the Kingdom of Wakanda.
So, if you don't know, there are already a lot of side stories within Wakanda to begin with. There's Man Ape, which is M'Baku, his character, who he kind of becomes. He fights for the throne of Wakanda, takes it, loses it, stuff like that. You have Siri. You also have they could do an anthology where they go back and kind of talk about some of the past.
Kings of Wakanda.
Kings of Wakanda, yes, thank you. You also had the Ultimate Universe of Black Panther. If you don't remember, where they were dealing with the alien invasion, remember that old Marvel movie where it was the Avengers? Was it Avengers Ultimate Avengers 2 or something? Where the Captain America and Black Panther are fighting these aliens that are coming from space.
I,
No, okay.
yeah, I
So,
don't.
but there's a bunch of stories they could tell. My problem is if they're still doing a movie, is there that much that much to go around? Does that mean we're not getting a movie anymore, or what? Or are we just doing a series and the movie, or is this kind of to bridge the gap between the last movie and this next movie coming out? This is going to tell the story of how we got from point A to point B, and I think that's going to be very important that they discuss that, because obviously the passing of Chadwick Boseman, they said they're not going to recast, they're not going to use any digital recreations, which I'm all about. But now we need to figure out how to tell his story and explain why he is no longer there. And I don't think it does him justice if they do it off scene. And also won't sit well with people. So I mean, they can use some of the footage they've already shot. It's going to be very, very, very difficult in my eyes. But also it's going to have to be very clean, so that way I'm sure everybody accepted. I mean, we know the reason. It's not like, oh, he was cast and recast, he left and decided not to do this anymore. Now we have to figure out a smooth way to to transition somebody into that role now, and have it make sense in the movie. I still think it'll make sense, but it's gonna have to be very clean, especially if they're doing the show around it. And I also wonder what it's gonna center around. Is it gonna center around like the daily politics and stuff like that, daily life in Wakanda, like just Wakanda, nothing outside of it, or is it even gonna deal with Black Panther situation? Is it gonna just deal with the trials and tribulations of being a royal family, or a bunch of different things. But I'm definitely interested to see how they're going to bridge this gap from the starting point to the next movie.
So you think this show, whatever it is, would have to come before another Black Panther movie?
Yeah, I mean, because the movie's already been, it was confirmed. Unless they later on say it's not coming. To me, this show needs to come before the movie to help smooth that transition. You know what I'm
Into
saying?
the
Like,
movie without
yeah,
Chadwick Boseman.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Because it would. I mean, he in all essences, if he was still alive, he would have been back. All sense from the story makes sense. He didn't die in any result before the snap happened. He returned from the snap. That final battle, he wasn't fatally wounded or anything like that. And for them to go back and say that something happened off screen, that's gonna be a lot harder.
That's gonna be seen as super lazy. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, just at the beginning of a movie. Yeah, so
Yeah.
definitely using the show would help a lot.
Okay.
I can get that.
Because I originally I was thinking this would be some sort of a side story that didn't really involve any of the characters you would normally see or expect to see in like the mainline movies. Like I would think like maybe it's like kind of an Agents of Shield type situation where like there's maybe one character you recognize, like maybe why am I forgetting her name? But Walking Dead.
Oh my God.
I cannot remember her real name.
Mishune? Oh no, real name. I thought you were talking about Michonne.
But yeah, I'm talking about Michonne, but I can't remember the actress's real name. My apologies. But her, who's the head of the Dora Milaje, and like maybe the rest of the Dora Milaje, and is following them. But like now that you're saying this, and also the name of the show, which I think is the name Kingdom of Wakanda. I don't know if that's the actual name, but if the name of the show is the Kingdom of Wakanda, I would assume that would revolve around the royal family and be something like Deny Guerrera. Thank you, Ash.
You're welcome.
Oh, you beat me
So
to it.
so yeah, I would.
Beat me too.
So I would think that a show called Kingdom of Wakanda would focus on the royal family and be like a Game of Thrones type thing, but everything's in Wakanda and deals with, the Marvel situations and whatnot. So that's going to be super difficult to do and ignore the fact that, Black Panther is going to have to change, right?
Yeah,
So,
it would.
but I mean, what about you, Ash or Jesse?
I was gonna say that it could be potentially. I mean, all that stuff that Jeff said are obviously all possible. They could do all of it technically if it's gonna be a show, so they could work in all of it. And just if they technically want to over time, it depends on how long they want the show to run. Excuse me. But I was gonna say I was thinking too of like since the Black Panther movie and the whole, at the end of the movie revealing that Wakanda to the world. And we've seen snippets of, in other movies past that people like, oh yeah, Wakanda. We know it's not like a bunch of flat land and some huts or whatever people thought beforehand. I'm assuming that's what they thought. So what if they go more into the interaction of just Wakanda and it's after it being exposed to the world and like those interactions with the world past that in a little bit more detail, having to deal with other countries and stuff. And like it starts out with, I'm assuming like his mom, you see his mom and Shuri and some other representatives of Wakanda talking to diplomats from different places of the area. And they're like already going ham like, so what exactly do you guys have? How much money, how much resources? Let's start some trade. And like, hey, hold on now. We said we were going to help. We ain't said we want to do all that. We don't want to be connected like that. Chill out. And like the some of that will be in there. So like some political stuff or whatever will probably be thrown in there too. I feel like they could go at some depth with, as long as they don't. No offense to people who care, but the what is it? The prequels for Star Wars, which people said were too political. I don't care. I enjoyed them. I thought they were fine.
Yeah,
no, there were extended scenes of literal politics.
But as long as they don't have extended scenes of literal politics, because obviously this is still MCU and children still people of all ages enjoy watching it, and no child wants to sit there and be like,
oh no, that motion's not going to pass.
dang it, darn it.
Not the filibuster.
But yeah, I think it'd be cool. I think, like Jeff said, it would be very smart to use it as a transition into it, because otherwise it'll be like too much of the movie. In contrast to like we were playing a game that's a sequel and the character died in between games, they just do a lot of flashbacks, and the game's not only going to be 2 hours long, so you have plenty of time to tell the story of what happened in between if you want to. It's a movie, more like it's going to be 2 hours long, and it's like I don't want to take up 30 minutes of the film of them trying to just do that and get less of the full story of there, especially since I don't know what footage they would show to do that. It'd be easier to like go over the sense of loss of Chadwick as the Black Panther or T'Challa Black Panther throughout the show, and then people just go into the movie already accepting that, knowing the change.
Like they basically had the extended like grieving period and explanation, and they can see how all the characters over time maybe dealt with it and then came out the other side, so that the next movie they can kind of start telling the next story. That makes a lot of sense. But as you were saying that, you actually put the thought in my head, and this might sound a little off at first, but like, what if the show was like The Wire, in the sense that,
oh my god,
but like, stay with me, not in the sense that it's like a bunch of inner city situations, but more so in the sense that it's looking at the Kingdom of Wakanda from like all these different levels. Like The Wire had the season that was basically following the police department. It had the season that was following the dock workers, season that followed the education system, season that followed like the press, that followed the politics. So it's that, but just how all of those things, those different facets of society work in Wakanda.
Especially like we were saying with the passing of their
right, yeah, and that could be that would be
on top
a
of
dope
now
way
being more in the world too.
Yeah, to just see how that affects the entire kingdom from like the bottom up, like, and then you also get to see like just how that, honestly, this fantastical like fairy tale society like functions, because like that's something that a lot of people are super interested in, just the whole concept of Wakanda period. Like, not even the superhero stuff, but just you're telling me there's an African nation that avoided all forms of colonization and is the most advanced place on the planet today. Like, sign me up. I want to read that story, you know?
I don't want to read that story. Hey.
Yeah, like that. It sounds that'd be really cool, honestly. Like that. Now I'll be disappointed if that's not what they're doing.
Well, also, you got to think about the timing of it too. It wasn't announced with the other shows. The other shows would have those ideas would have been in development for quite some time. This came more recently, which leads me to believe that his tragic death kind of played a part in the development of this show. Like, hey, this is something we need to do. Now, if it was something they already had intended on doing, I feel like it would have been announced with a slew of the other Marvel shows. But like I said, there's no reason why they can't do all of that. Like Ash said, they can do all of that and still tell a very compelling story. So
Makes sense. Any final thoughts on this before we wrap up and move on to the next topic? No?
no.
All right. Fair enough. Let's move on. Embracer has acquired Gearbox for $1.3 billion. And just to clarify, they paid upfront something like $363 million, but the deal is supposed to be worth about $1.3 billion over time. Like, if Gearbox meets some of their expectations, like in terms of game releases, and like I think the movie is actually included in that too. If that movie has a certain level of return, then they'll pay them more money. And it'll eventually reach that $1.3 billion number that we're looking at. Because my first reaction to this was, honestly, you paid way too much money for this mediocre-ass studio.
Right?
That's my feelings.
Wow.
How about you guys, though? Like, what's your take on Gearbox being acquired?
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of slander.
And what does that mean for EA, who publishes most of their games as well?
EA doesn't publish most of...
I mean, not EA.
2K.
Didn't they publish 2K? Yeah,
2K publishes most of their stuff.
Yes.
I would assume that they don't do that anymore, right? Because Gearbox was always, like, third party. They weren't owned by anyone. They were a completely independent developer until now. Now they're under a publisher, and, you know, they have, like, sister brother studios under that banner.
Yes, I guess they wouldn't be under 2K at all anymore. That would make sense.
Yeah. And then
Less microtransactions. Awesome. All right, keep going.
I don't think that's going away.
You know, it might have been
fair.
part of the deal. Like, oh, you guys are big on microtransactions? It's an attractive purchase.
Randy Pitchfork did say that you might see they might be using more of Borderlands characters in other games or mediums besides the Borderlands series. They were saying, "Oh, it might be an RPG." Oh well, an RPG, some other stuff. He was saying they might wind up using those characters. I mean, because they have been underused. And I can't say underused. A lot of companies have just started branching out. For example, you have Riot Games where they have League of Legends for like years, and now they're starting to do other spin-offs from League of Legends. I think there's the RPG that's coming out. There's supposed to be a first-person shooter. There's a fighting game they were working on. Wait, Valorant was the
shooter, yeah.
Yeah. And then they're working on an RPG that got announced. So it would be cool to see them in other mediums. But also, on my other hand, like Jesse was saying, I'm not sure I care. Because it has been so long.
I mean, just what, like, off the top of your head, without talking about the loot, what makes a Borderlands character cool?
I just like the assassin one. That's the only one.
And why?
Yeah, he's a ninja, so he kind of just gets a pass
Right, yeah.
off principle.
It's just a pass.
Okay, I think that could be a problem in this. Is that was met with silence? Because
no, go ahead.
like, yeah, like I enjoyed playing Borderlands as a co-op shooter, as dumb fun. The characters are okay. The story is basically non-existent. And I haven't played the second one or a third one, or the prequels, or the Telltale games.
I think
The Telltale one is good.
Yeah, I think that might be your disconnect with the series, is because the second one did step up the story. The first game for sure had non-existent story, but they actually made those characters a lot more personable, and like they made the stuff you were doing way more interesting in the second one. Like I really loved the second Borderlands, but it was the third one for me where I was like, you guys are kind of recycling the same stuff. You're spinning your wheels. No one's going anywhere. Nothing's really changing. I was kind of off the boat at that point. But at this point, they're saying, oh, let's do a movie. Let's do an RPG. Let's branch out. And I'm like, what are you branching out into? Because other than the Telltale game, which I've also heard good things about.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, like now I feel like how Jesse does. Like, these characters don't really do or mean much anymore. Like, the best ones, they didn't really even use them that much in the third game.
Yeah. And, like, it's one of the things that I think made Borderlands work is the fact that it is generic. Like, what world are they on? Well, who cares? But it's that pseudo post-apocalyptic Mad Max. You get to have humor of people running around with masks and guns and being strapped to the front of cars. Like that is a language that, as pop culture, we understand.
Anarchy.
But one of the reasons we understand it is because it is just the basics of it.
Yeah, it's not other than that cell shaded look. It doesn't have any like, you know, especially like, I don't know, like, yeah, you're right. Like it's such a generic world other than it sort of looking like a comic book, but it's not like that's a premise that these are all comic book characters and it's like getting meta or whatever. It just happens to look like that. And that's really his only claim to fame.
For me, this is one of the few series where, and no offense to people who love all the Borderlands games, like for the mainline titles, I played 1 and 2, and I played a little bit of the prequel. I think, I played a little bit of the prequel, the pre-sequel, whatever the weird name it had. My favorite thing out of the Borderlands franchise is the Telltale game, a spinoff. I thought it was funny. I had a good time just going through it. My wife plays games, not a lot, but she does play games. But when she came in at the beginning of that because we played King's Quest, the rebooted King's Quest game, and she thought that was cool. So she wanted to watch me go through the Telltale one, and she was really into just watching what was going down and what was going to happen next. That Telltale game, I think, was great. I enjoyed that more than anything I ever played in any Borderlands game. I don't know if that's a horrible thing, but that's how I felt.
I don't mind the Telltale games. They just, to me, are more of a leisure game to me. Because it takes the action out of a hand. And just, to me, it's like the quicker time events for most games where you got to press A during this time, B during that time. Like the first couple, like once I played The Walking Dead, I got my fill of those choice-based games. If I wanted the story, which is basically what those are, more of an interactive story, then I just read a comic book or something. But
you don't interact with a comic book.
You do.
You buy choose your own adventure comics. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, exactly. I get to choose which ones I want to read.
That's the adventure, bro.
Exactly. But like, I wouldn't mind if I saw them maybe like in a strategy game, kind of like was a Gears Tactics. That would be pretty cool.
If the game is good, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
but
I didn't mind 3. I felt like 3 there were a lot of consequences, but I do believe you're right. There wasn't a big transition from how the second game began and the second game ended to how the third game began and how the third game ended. I will say there were a lot more, spoiler, there were a lot more deaths and stuff like that, and it seemed like the stakes were very high, and the villains were very unique. They were new. They hadn't done this type of villain before in the past ones. So I felt like Borderlands is great, but I also felt like the story, the humor wasn't as good in the third one as it was in the second one. The DLCs were pretty cool. They had the blood and tentacles, the whole
that Lovecraftian.
Yeah, that was very well told. One of my favorite from 2 was Bunkers and Badasses. the whole Tiny Tina Dungeons and Dragons DLC.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that was fantastic DLC.
Mm-hmm.
They really was. And I feel like they haven't met that bar since. like that's my disappointment. Like I was excited for Borderlands 3. I wanted them to bring all of that stuff to the modern day, and they kind of just, it's like they were afraid to change anything because the second one worked so well. They just kind of did the second one again with like a tweak here and there, and like that wasn't at all what I was looking for. I get that some people did enjoy it, but I wonder, like, as much as they've been bought for, like, how good is that series doing? Like, is it that popular that it can, pull a movie? Because like I don't see it. Like nobody here seems to see it. So I'm like, who is this for? Like, I'm just.
If they made the movie, it would literally just have to be the Telltale game that I already played, and I wouldn't watch it. So
There must be some money behind it. They have a Kevin Hart is rolling, which I don't understand. And they had who else? Did they have?
Already, like that's ridiculous. Like that.
I just looked that up. Kate Blanchett as Lilith,
Yes.
I think is what IMDb says.
Yeah, so they put big money behind this B-level franchise.
ooh, the slander is real today.
Cause like Borderlands was a big deal back in the day.
Was.
Yeah, like how many years was it between like the pre-sequel stuff and then Borderlands 3? It was like at least 7 or 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that franchise wasn't that prolific that people were still like, lining up at midnight for that release. Like when it came out, I think there was a lot of skepticism. People were excited for sure, but I don't think that game set the world on fire. Like, who's talking about Borderlands 3 now? Like, everything that's coming out about Gearbox is about the transmedia stuff. It's about, the franchise moving away from games and like doing these other things. So
Because what else do they have? Brothers in Arms. They had. Do they own Duke Nukem?
they
have
own Duke
Half-Life?
Nukem, yes. No, they don't own
have-
Half-Life, no.
Do they
That's
do
Valve.
Half-Life?
No.
Okay. So yeah, just Duke Nukem and
Yeah, literally
Brothers in Arms.
everything Gearbox has made other than Borderlands has been like a massive flop. Not like just a generic okay game. They were like really bad. They did Aliens Colonial Marines, which they got sued over, I think, because like they
Yes.
legit like just completely lied to people about what that game was and how it looked, and it was just like unfinished garbage. They did Duke Nukem Forever, which was a over 10-year development hell game that they took over, released, and was bad. They did the Overwatch Battleborn. Yeah.
Oh, Battleborn.
Yeah, like those servers just got shut down forever. Like
and that wasn't
last
a
week or
bad
so.
game. They just had bad timing.
I don't know.
It got horrible timing. Like I played it like during the beta. It wasn't bad, but then Overwatch came out. They stood zero chance when Overwatch came out.
I mean,
because they were very
yes,
similar.
They on the surface they were very similar, but Battleborn wasn't what Overwatch. It wasn't a team shooter, right? It was more
No.
like a MOBA type thing, right?
It was more of a MOBA hybrid where you had more free reign. It was more like similar to Smite, but
which is a
you could
MOBA.
jump, which you could jump around and stuff like that. If you've ever played Shadow,
Oh, the Colossus?
no, Shadow
the
Rush,
Tomb Raider.
Shadow something. You played it. It was almost similar. It was a online only game. You played as elves or dwarves.
Shadowrun?
Or something. Shadowrun. There you go. The combat was similar to that, but it was a MOBA. So,
Oh, the
surprised you
Shadowrun
didn't.
FPS.
yes,
Yeah. I like Overwatch does share some of their burden because it kind of overshadowed them and it looked similar, but honestly, Overwatch was a much better game. Period.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, like you can probably go back and look at reviews. Like, I don't think Battleborn was like reviewed as well as Overwatch, and like they just lost in terms of marketing. Like the game wasn't as good, and like people who were playing it kind of stopped after a while. Like that didn't happen with Overwatch. Like people didn't get bored of Overwatch. Like they shut down the servers because people weren't playing the game, and like you need a community to keep a game like that alive.
So it didn't get horrible scores. It got a 70, which is a C, but Overwatch was what mostly reviewed as an A when it came out. So yes, it was a much better game, but also it wasn't a total fail. It just, once again, it being a C-rate game couldn't contend with obviously a better version, and especially coming from Blizzard.
Right. So that basically just that's Gearbox's track record. If you ignore
Gearbox has a better
if you ignore Borderlands.
Well, maybe they
Gearbox
were
has a
going
better,
under, and they decided
publishing
to
record.
make this deal.
I mean,
They have
that
a better publishing record than they do developing, which is
Yeah,
sad.
very true. Yeah.
that is true because they did act as a publisher for some stuff as well.
Yeah, they got the.
But that makes sense.
what
Like
is
with
it?
the pandemic hitting, maybe they're not hitting their marks in terms of finances, so they were open to a deal. I still think that they paid too much money for the studio, but I'm not a businessman. We'll let THQ Nordic do what they do because what has Nordic been doing anyway? Like every studio that they've been buying have been kind of the leftovers of like the
Dang.
AA development
slander.
days. It's the truth. Like that's what they're picking up. They're picking up all these AA IPs, all these AA studios, and they're re-releasing those games to kind of test the market for an appetite. Like it was them that re-released Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was literally
I didn't
the
play
same game. They did nothing to that game. So
I just.
like
That was a waste.
it kind of was, but maybe in them picking up Borderlands is a way for them to kind of diversify their portfolio and maybe start releasing some newer things. But yeah, I don't see how this this is different from like a Microsoft purchase of some AA or AAA studio because Microsoft tends to have more money than everybody and can pump that money into these other projects and help them out. I don't know that Embracer is making so much money that they can afford to give an influx to Gearbox to help them maybe go to the next level. But I don't know. Embracer seems to have a ton of money. I don't know where it's coming from. But if they're offering them a $1.3 billion deal over some time, like maybe they do have the money to burn to help Gearbox kind of step its game up. But who knows if money is the issue? Like they've been doing this for however long, and they can only do Borderlands right. So I don't know. I don't think this is a good deal. I don't think Gearbox is a generally good studio. That's kind of where I lie on this situation. But anything else on this deal before we move on to the next topic? And
Yes,
we're just about over time right now. Do we want to skip over the EA College Sports story?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, there's that. That's a yes. Go ahead.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I'll just say, apparently NCAA sports went away because there was questions on whether or not the college players could get paid for their likeness being used in the games. Rather than have that conversation, EA was like, all right, we'll pull the plug.
I mean,
Yep.
unless they were smart about it. I'd rather they pull the plug and said just rip them off fully. I don't know.
But now, apparently, there's some kind of new deal with the whatever that players organization is for the colleges, so that they can use all the stadiums, the mascots, the team names. But it doesn't seem like they're going to be using the players' likenesses for these new batch of games. And whether or not they do that is still dependent on whether the schools allow the players to group together as a union, which they don't like because that would mean they may have to pay them, and they don't want to pay them because they're students and not actual athletes. But they are student athletes, so
that make them a lot of money.
Yeah, it's such a gray area. But we'll leave that to later. Like maybe something else will come from the story and it'll come back up later in the week. But we'll skip over that for now. We'll move on to our final topic. Google Stadia has now shut down their 2 internal studios. That whole initiative was being led by Jade Raymond, formerly of Ubisoft, and now she's going to be leaving the company and going elsewhere. But all those jobs, I think 150 people across both studios, supposedly they're going to be trying to find them new work within Google. But Google doesn't want to make first-party games anymore. They spent about a year talking about doing this and then have given up already. Like, what's your immediate response to this news?
Well, let's be honest here, okay? So when this is one of the things we talked about when Stadia came out. So we were kind of excited about it. Like, okay, let's see what's going to come up. But all they were announcing were games that were already on other consoles. Hey, Destiny 2. Hey, you can play this over here. You can play. They did not come out with the first-party game that said, hey, come play it on. You can only play it on Stadia. Come and play it over here. What Sony does is they release excellent first-party games. That is what draws people in, okay? Microsoft, not so great in the first party games, but they have such a great ecosystem for the player as far as movies, gaming together, all that stuff.
Game Pass.
Exactly. Game Pass, boom, just everything. So
Yeah,
if I'm
Game
gonna
Pass.
play Destiny 2, I'm gonna play it on my Xbox. Why am I gonna get a Stadia just to play Destiny 2? And that was their biggest letdown was they didn't have any first person exclusives that want to make people jump to play Stadia. To me, so I'm saying like, what did this internal studio do? I don't remember any first person games they came out with.
Yeah,
I mean first party games.
like, when did they even start the studio? Because like, they gave them
Yeah.
what, a year? Like, this announcement came about a year after they even started the Stadia push, right? You gave,
What would you have time to make? in
yeah,
that
like, what the
time?
hell would they have been able to make in that time? And they already
Right.
shut it down.
Some
Like-
games are in development for years, sometimes almost a decade before an actual first party game comes out.
Like, Jeff, you were there, like, when we were first getting this news about Google entering the games business and doing this stuff. I was super excited. I was like, I can't wait to see what Google does. They have a ton of money. They have a ton of innovation in, like, their products. Like, I love using Google services. Like, I use all of the Google apps. I use Google Chrome. Like, I have a Pixel phone. Like, I love their stuff, right? I'm like, yes, I want them to be a big heavy hitter in this industry. And everybody else was like, well, Google tends to give up like halfway through
They do.
any new project they start. I'm like, no, this is video games. Like, they'll like
This is
look
video
at
game.
like they
This is
didn't
my medium.
they didn't give up wholesale, but this does not look good. This is them literally kind of cutting the ambition for this project in half. They're like, we want to make games, we want to make a service where people can play games. Now they're saying we just want to maintain a service that people play games. So like, they're getting out of the making games business. That sounds like a complete and utter lack of confidence in their ability to make themselves, viable in this industry. Like, now I'm like, I don't really see the Stadia service thriving at this point, because they bungled that from the jump with kind of the lackluster
Their pricing model sucks.
Yes, it does. It's awful. Like, I fully intended them to have the money to copy Microsoft's Game Pass service wholesale. Like, do exactly what Microsoft is doing. Make a big blanket library of games that you can sign up for. That's what's appealing about this service, because then you can take that anywhere. But they started announcing stuff. Was like, oh, just buy your games over again on our platform, and let Microsoft literally take the streaming stuff right from underneath them. So now Microsoft has the big platform, the big library of games, and the ability to play it wherever you want with the streaming stuff. And Google has done nothing. They haven't moved like an inch from that point forward. And like, it's super frustrating as the person who was like kind of cheering them on. Like, I feel like this is dumb. Like, I feel like they should just give up entirely now. Like, what is even the point of Stadia at this stage?
So for me, the reason why I didn't like Stadia from the jump, even without the exclusives, that pricing model is what tore me down first. I didn't care about any exclusives they would have put out later, because I wouldn't have gotten to the service anyway. You already have to to me, it's like Amazon Prime, right? Like Amazon Prime, you have like the movies and TV shows. Some of it's included with your subscription. Some of it you still have to pay for, but you still have to have a subscription anyway. I don't do that. I'm either going to pay for it, or I get the subscription and it's all included. Like, don't do that. Just don't even put it in your service. Just let me have to like have it elsewhere or something. That's dumb. So for me, it's like, you already got to pay this much money to get into Stadia. Potentially, I think you can use your own controller anyway. But if you want to use the Google Stadia controller, because then it can be on your Wi-Fi. You can use that on any device in the house. You can use it on your phone wirelessly. You can use it. That's all of that. All of the concepts of Stadia to me are great. In fact, as someone for content creators, I think Stadia could have been great. You don't have to worry about upgrading the rig. As long as your internet was decent, you can play any game that comes out. At least high settings, right? Mm-hmm. Graphically, the game should look well. I think it'll still be 1080p, but it doesn't matter. Twitch can only go to 1080p, so who cares that much anyway? So you just stream the game there. If you have enough internet bandwidth and speed, you can stream the game. You don't have to upgrade your rig. It can literally, and all you have to do is stream. That's it. You can literally just stream or record gameplay, take off a lot of resources off your PC, not have to overclock anything, run it anywhere really if you want to, and just do that. And that would be great. That's why I like the idea of Stadia when they announced it, because that's what I thought I would end up doing. I was like, I might as well just do that. I'll pay a subscription. Don't have to worry about upgrading my PC all the daggone time. I probably would still upgrade it eventually, but I'll have to do it like every 2 or 3 years if I don't want to try to keep up with the times. So it's like, I thought it was a great idea what they had in store, but then the pricing model, now about any idea of exclusives, at least first party, they better get some third party exclusives at bare minimum, because with that pricing model, if they don't have anything exclusive, like there's no point.
I don't see that happening. First, I just want to point out, Lampy is trying to clarify, you don't pay to use Stadia, you pay to use Stadia Pro, which is like Xbox's gold tier. Like every month, I think you get like 2 free games added to your library.
Okay. But now, is that free for good, or is that free as long as you're a subscriber?
Probably as long as you're a subscriber.
Yeah, probably. It's probably just because, again, like that base level you don't pay for. Like you can use Stadia, you just have to pay for the game. Which I still think is a bridge too far, because you're telling me to leave these other ecosystems
and to play on their servers.
To play on Google servers where the game is like in their cloud. I still have to pay the price of a game that I could either have in my hand or on a service or a console that I trust, right?
Where there are players, because
where there are players,
so there's no other players there.
And that's another reason to maybe where I don't think any third party is going to be like, oh, I'll exclusively give my game to Stadia, because who's using Stadia? Like they haven't made the case that pulls a ton of people into it, even though potentially you have the possibility of getting every player because it's a free service at the base. That third party game would need to be a free to play game that's only on Stadia, right?
Yeah.
So what is the purpose of that? Because you can make it free to play on everything, on PC, on whoever will let you do that. Like I don't see the incentive there, unless Google is paying them a ton of money. Then sure,
which they can do.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. They spent however much money on their first party studios and decided that wasn't worth it. So like, I don't know. Maybe they'll decide to spend money on a third party studio, but like, what's the point? Like, if they don't trust the studios that they themselves built to make a game for them that would be exclusive, why would they then pay somebody else to make a game that would be exclusive? It's like, why did you scuttle that word from yesterday night? Why did you scuttle your your first party studios to then spend that money on third party guys that you don't have as much control over? Like, it's dumb. Like, if they did that, that's dumb. And that's what I feel like this whole project is turning into. No one at Google seems to know what they were doing. I had so much faith in them. They seem like they're dumb.
They let you down.
They really did.
They just saw they saw where the money was in video game, and like I said, I think they really thought that this would be good for people who create content too, to utilize or whatever. And they were like, "Oh yeah, this would be easy money," but didn't really like do any research on exactly what it would entail to like actually try to get gamers into their service. I didn't know about the free versus pro. I still would rather it just be just one subscription price. And I get access to all the games.
Yeah, like whatever Google Stadia has in the library, I get to play it because I pay a monthly fee. I would have done that in a heartbeat.
Right, and legitimately for the concept of it and the ease of access to the games anywhere and stuff, I wouldn't mind paying even more money for it. If I got, like, if they actually had a decent library, they had, like Game Pass has obviously, any first party and third party, but then like imagine if they started getting first party games from Sony on there too. Right, so they got the first party Sony games, first party Microsoft games, and then all the third parties in between, all in one library space.
Well, on Stadia?
Yeah, if they did that,
well,
I don't care how much they charge me. I would give them money though. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I don't.
Imagine if they pulled that off.
That's a dream. So I don't think that would ever happen.
That's a dream.
That'd be like $1,000 a month.
Hey, they might have to get it from me. I don't know where I'm getting the money myself.
We'll get that when we get a Mario Kart PC port.
Ooh.
Oh.
Now, for me, I feel like they needed to partner with someone else.
They partnered with Ubisoft, kinda.
Well, Ubisoft's in bed with everybody. Like,
yeah. Amazon, they had the same issue where they had to scrap that Crucible game. Mm-hmm. They released it and then had to unrelease it because it was so bad. They still have that other game, the New World.
The New World.
The MMO, I actually played that beta. It was actually pretty good. It wasn't bad, but they needed something, like you said. To me, if they would have partnered with somebody like Steam, hey, you can play your Steam games on the Stadia without having to buy another computer or worrying about like as said, upgrading your rig or anything
The
like
Steam
that.
Remote Play isn't that good either. Like
Yeah.
that'd
Yeah, it's
be
a
a
little
great
finicky.
person to go to.
So it'd be excellent for them to partner with somebody, like Amazon or Steam, if they're not going to put out their own content.
They can't do Amazon though. Amazon has Amazon Luna now. They have their own cloud gaming
Oh,
Yeah,
service.
that's the thing. Like pretty much
which
everybody
can't be doing that great. Yeah.
in this field is basically a competitor. Like they're all trying to do their own version of this. So yeah, those team ups don't seem as likely. I have to like because Google like they have access to such influence, to such like tech and resources. For them to be in the video game space would have been just really good for games in general. Like Google has the potential to force people to force the country rather to improve the entire internet infrastructure. Like if Google
That's what I
wants
was
it to
gonna
happen,
say.
they could push for stuff like that. But if they're so quick to just be like, all right, well, forget this portion of it. I mean, the streaming stuff still exists. I mean, that's I guess a silver lining that they didn't just destroy everything. But like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like they're in this for the long haul anymore. Like, I
No,
don't think
it
we'll
won't
see
It
them
won't be that long.
advocating for like game advancement for very much longer. Like, I think this is the start of the end for Stadia. Like, it's just gonna be a blip in like gaming history at this point.
This is definitely an easy strike one. If two more heavy stories like this come out, I definitely assume there is dead in the water.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like Amazon's going to be next as far as.
like giving up. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Like,
I'm actually in that beta for Luna. I need to try it out to see if it's actually like a decent.
I played the New World. It was pretty good, but didn't get to play the Crucible, nor did I want to. Based on
I
everything
played
I
some of
saw.
that Crucible
How was
game.
that for you?
It was boring. Like it, like the characters, like some of the characters were okay, but like just like fighting and like because it was like PvPvE, like was like the main thing. Like fighting any enemies in the world was super boring, and then when you would come across other characters, like they didn't have good enough silhouettes. Like you couldn't really tell what you were fighting and dealing with at a distance, like how you can in Overwatch and stuff. Like so, like just at a base level, like it didn't really work. So it wasn't fun. But is that all that we have for the Stadia stuff before we wrap things up for today? We're hitting about an hour now, so I think we're not too bad.
I think Lampy said in the chat, and I feel like this is kind of how I feel about Stadia, which is like if I didn't say I'm upgrading my computer for work, I wouldn't have a rig that could run like the latest, greatest, best stuff on high end thing. And a product like Stadia, where it's like, come play Cyberpunk. Probably a bad example, but like still, come play Cyberpunk.
Well, apparently it worked
on PC.
Stadia.
On PC it was fine.
So
on Stadia fine.
That's something. It's like, well, if I'm gonna buy it somewhere, why not buy it there? And then I don't have to spend $1,000 upgrading my computer or spend $500 on a PS5 if I can find it to play this game. As a service, it totally makes sense for why it should work. And I'm not sure how they're going to capitalize on that market because I do think it's there. And like how they can get some of the other people who don't necessarily need it. Like we all have gaming computers. Do we really need Stadia? No. So we also might not be that target market, and they maybe realize like first party studio was targeting the hardcore market that already has the computer and they don't need them. So, distribute it to. So it could be okay. Because I still like I like the idea of on live. That's cool. I like streaming gaming services.
Yeah.
A cool idea. Making it work is very hard.
It could go places for sure.
Yeah. But I feel you there, Casey, where it might be just a big red flag on like, we're thinking about getting out now. So I am curious where it's going to go.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but it feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now they quit their projects, Casey. Like like whoever told you that before, that's what they do. They quit, man.
I remember Google Wave.
But Gmail still a thing.
I mean,
they got some. They stuck
like
with some
the
of
stuff
them.
that they stick with is like some of the best stuff in the industry. Like it's my preferred version of whatever it is usually the Google version, right? So I really wanted them to nail this, and this seems like it's going away from that to me. But I think that's going to do it for episode 16. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Jeff, what do you have coming up this week that you want people to know about?
Today is Sunday, which means tomorrow is Monday. Monday, I have Monday Night Siege. We'll be back at 8 p.m. Eastern. Same face, same place. And then Thursday, I believe we'll be doing Destiny 2. The new season starts on the 9th, so we'll be going through some of the new stuff from this season, the next season, so definitely check it out.
Cool. How about you, Jesse? Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Rexicon Jesse, which is my Twitter. Also Itch and Reddit, pretty much anywhere I am, it's Rexicon Jesse. And then I will be streaming on my channel, which is twitch.tv/Rexicon Jesse on Thursdays from 5 to 7 Eastern.
Nice. How about you, Ash? Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. You already know my name's above because Casey always take care of me. Ash Redux, that's me on Twitch. That's me on everywhere that you can possibly think to find me. Wait, not everywhere. That might be a bad look. Don't look for me everywhere. I'm not everywhere. Never mind. Just go to Twitch, Twitter. Just go there. Just in case someone else somehow use that name on sites I don't want to be associated with. But yeah, so what we got coming up? I got a hardcore Pokemon Nuzlocke race coming up tomorrow. Ooh. That's going to be going down. Hardcore Nuzlocke rules. That's different from normal Nuzlocke rules. Look it up. I don't got time to explain that. This ain't my podcast.
I got to look that up.
I'll tell you. I can tell you about it afterwards. Yeah. But hardcore Pokemon Nuzlocke rules, and it's a race between me, my boy Shifty, and Kiba. That's tomorrow. That's going to be every Monday at 8 p.m. Tuesday, 8 p.m. I'm playing. If you want to see a real Is pandemic censored? Did they stop? Podcast? All right. If you want to see a real pandemic, I'm playing a Plague Tale Innocence every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That involves a Black Death and magic, basically.
This fake Corona stuff is going
this
around.
This fake stuff.
A real pandemic. The Black Death.
Black Death. That's no. For anyone who's lost someone during coronavirus, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I apologize.
I'm not taking it lightly. Just real quick before someone gets mad. People get mad real quick. It's a joke. That's every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Thursday, we either play Raft or Rocket League. That new football mode is the only mode I'm good at. And then Saturday, it's Need for Speed Heat. Been turned up on there. So if you like any of those things, follow me on Twitch.
Cool. Let me say quick press the thoughts and prayers button, Casey.
Press the thoughts and prayers button.
You guys can find me at SigmaGears9 on Twitter and pretty much all social media. Later today, join me, and I think, Jeff, you're going to be joining me for Super Smash Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 5:30 p.m. Eastern. What else? Yesterday, the latest episode of A Marvelous Escape, the Marvel podcast that I do with Jack Packard and Darren Mooney, dropped on the Escapist Movies channel, so go check that out. Also, my latest review actually just dropped yesterday as well for Skull, the Hero Slayer, yes. Mm-hmm. So check that out. And then Tuesday on Escapist, I'll probably be doing a post-MR on Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood.
Ooh, I didn't know you reviewed that.
I did. It's terrible. But we're going to play it on stream anyway, because those tend to be pretty fun. But other than that, just follow the Twitter, and you'll see me posting about stuff that I'm going to be doing. Please try to check out all the content. We really appreciate all the people who follow us. I appreciate all my co-hosts who come through and help me do this show. That's going to do it for episode 16. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.